Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Fluent and Fearless, the podcast that helps professionals communicate with more confidence and more clarity in American English. I'm your host, Katherine Arthur, speech-language pathologist and American English pronunciation instructor. Today, we're talking about something I see literally every week with my clients, and that's the common pronunciation mistakes that ESL professionals make. Many of my clients who are ESL professionals worry about their accent, and they worry about it a lot. But here's what I tell them. Having an accent is completely normal. Every single person on this planet has an accent. I have one. Now, the goal of pronunciation training is not to erase your identity or to make you sound like someone else. It is simply to make your speech easier to understand so that your ideas and not your pronunciation become the focus. So let me say that one more time. The goal of pronunciation training is to be understood the first time you speak, so you can focus on your ideas instead of your pronunciation. Now, many of the pronunciation mistakes that we'll discuss today are incredibly common, even among highly educated professionals like physicians, engineers, researchers, recruiters, executives. The pronunciation mistakes that make the biggest difference are usually not the ones that people expect. Many ESL speakers spend years worrying about tiny details that native English speakers barely notice, while overlooking the pronunciation habits that actually affect clarity. So today we're going to talk about the mistakes that I hear most often, why they happen, and what you can do about it. I'm here to help you, and we're going to fix all of that for you. So let's dive in. I'm Katherine Arthur, and this is Fluent and Fearless. Now, pronunciation mistake number 1 is trying to pronounce every single letter and every single sound. And, well, that's partly the fault of English spelling, because English spelling is, well, let's be honest, it's a mess. And unlike many languages, English spelling often does not match the pronunciation. So think about words like Wednesday, or comfortable, business, vegetable, or chocolate. If you are trying to pronounce every letter exactly as it's written, you're probably making English sound much harder than it really is. Native speakers reduce sounds constantly. For example, the word comfortable often sounds more like comfortable instead of comfortable. Or take the word vegetable. That's how we pronounce it in American English. We don't pronounce every sound. We don't say vegetable. It's vegetable. And ESL speakers sometimes struggle with this, and that's because, well, they've been taught to pronounce every letter, every sound carefully, because that's how reading works in their native language. English doesn't play by those rules, unfortunately. So instead of trusting the spelling, trust what you hear. Listen carefully to native speakers and notice which sounds disappear or which sounds become shorter. This one does take people by surprise. And it's unfortunate because so many ESL speakers spend months practicing sounds like R, TH, or V, or W. And those sounds certainly matter, but if you're only practicing individual words, you're missing a much bigger picture. That's because real communication happens not in sounds, not in words, but in sentences. Native English speakers don't carefully pronounce every single word, as we've already discussed. We connect words together, we reduce unstressed words, and we change our pitch. We emphasize important words. What that means is pronunciation is much more than individual sounds. So if someone tells me that they practiced the R sound for 6 months, I say, well, have you practiced saying it in conversation? Because that's where real improvement happens. Pronunciation mistake number 2 is giving every word equal stress. This might be the single biggest difference between sounding natural and sounding robotic. English, as we've mentioned in previous podcasts, is a stress-timed language. What does that mean? It means that some words are emphasized while others become smaller, faster, and quieter. It's one of the most valuable pronunciation skills that you can develop. Now listen to these two sentences. I need the report today versus I need the report today. Same words, but different meaning. Every word can change the meaning of a sentence depending on which word receives the stress. Or let's look at something different. Take this sentence. I'm going to the meeting tomorrow. Native speakers will naturally emphasize words like going, meeting, tomorrow, while words like to, the, and I'm almost disappear. Now, many ESL speakers pronounce every word with the same importance. The result is perfectly understandable grammar, but listeners have to work much harder to process it. So if you want to sound more natural almost overnight, start paying attention to sentence stress instead of individual sounds. When every word receives equal emphasis, native speakers have to listen and work much harder to understand you. So identify the important information and let those words stand out. Think of your voice like a spotlight. Not every word deserves the spotlight. Pronunciation mistake number 3, speaking too carefully. This one also surprises people. That's because many professionals believe that speaking slowly and carefully will make them easier to understand, and sometimes it does, but often speaking too carefully will create new problems. Sometimes it actually has the opposite effect. When people try too hard to pronounce every syllable perfectly, their speech becomes robotic. Every word becomes isolated. Every syllable gets equal attention, and the rhythm, it starts to disappear. So instead of saying, I'll send it to you tomorrow, it becomes, I will send it to you tomorrow. Now that's robotic. So ironically, speaking too carefully is harder for native listeners to understand. That's because English has a natural rhythm. The words flow together. Some words will become shorter and others stretch out. And as a result, the sentences flow together. So don't be afraid to let the language move naturally, because clarity is important. Perfection is not. You don't need to sound like a dictionary. You want to sound like someone having a conversation. Pronunciation mistake number 4, ignoring word stress. Many long English words have one syllable that's louder, longer, and clearer than the others. Words like communication, pronunciation, technology, computer, and sometimes different forms of a word have a different stress pattern. Let's try a quick example. Consider the word photograph. The stress is on the first syllable. Now listen to these related words. Photography. The stress is on the second syllable. Photographic. Stress on the third syllable. Notice how that stress does change, and this is something that many ESL professionals overlook. They pronounce every syllable equally. Unfortunately, incorrect word stress can sometimes make a familiar word difficult for native listeners to recognize, even if every individual sound is correct. That's why learning stress patterns is just as important as learning vowel sounds. If you stress the wrong syllable, native speakers might need a second or two to recognize the word. The individual sounds might all be correct, but the rhythm is wrong. This happens with thousands of English words, so learning where the stress belongs is often more important than perfect consonants. Pronunciation mistake number 5 is using the same pitch all the time. Think about the last interesting speaker that you listened to. Did they sound flat or monotone? Well, probably not. Their voice naturally went up and down. Pitch communicates enthusiasm and confidence and curiosity and concern and many other things. But many ESL speakers focus so much on pronunciation that they forget to use natural intonation. As a result, they may accidentally sound tired, uncertain, or uninterested, even though that's not how they really feel inside. Your melody matters just as much as your pronunciation. Pronunciation mistake number 6, rushing difficult words. Here's something that I notice often. A speaker does beautifully through an entire sentence. Then suddenly they'll begin to race through a difficult medical term or a technical word, and ironically, that's usually the word that listeners need to understand the very most. So instead of speeding up, slow down slightly before challenging vocabulary. Give yourself permission to take your time. Even a half-second extra can dramatically improve clarity. Pronunciation mistake number 7, focusing only on individual sounds. Here's another one I see a lot. Someone will tell me, I need to work on my R sounds, or that their TH isn't perfect. Now, those sounds matter, don't misunderstand me. But in most cases, sound like TH can be a fairly easy fix. But communication is much bigger than one consonant. Think about everything that affects clarity. Sentence stress, intonation, rhythm, word stress, thought groups, pacing, connected speech, even breathing. And these are all things that I teach my clients. Once they learn these concepts, they find out that sometimes someone with an obvious accent is incredibly easy for native American English speakers to understand. That's why another person may pronounce every sound correctly but still be difficult to follow because the rhythm doesn't sound like English. As we've already learned, pronunciation is more than just sounds. It's really a collection of many different skills working together. Pronunciation mistake number 8, forgetting about final consonants. Now, English is a language that loves ending words with consonants. Think about words like worked, asked, months, helped, next, world. Now, many languages don't end words with a suffix for past tense like English does, or they don't end words with an S to signify a plural noun. Some languages don't end words with a consonant sound at all. As a result, ESL speakers sometimes soften the last sound of a word. The problem is that those endings often carry important grammatical information. For example, work as opposed to worked, play as opposed to plays or played. Those tiny sounds tell your listener whether you're talking about the present, the past, or a plural. Now, these sounds are small, but they're powerful. Pronunciation mistake number 9, not opening the mouth enough. This might sound funny, but it's true. Many ESL speakers pronounce English with very small mouth movements. Sometimes it's because they're nervous. Sometimes it's because that's simply how speech works in their native language. Now, American English generally uses fairly open and relaxed mouth movements. We call it the American mouth posture. And I teach this to my clients, and it makes a big difference in how they sound when they speak American English. Using the American mouth posture will make your speech sound more naturally clear, especially for vowels, because if your mouth barely moves, vowels can begin to kind of sound alike, and that definitely makes your speech less clear. So here's one simple trick. Watch yourself in a mirror while speaking. You'll probably discover your mouth isn't moving nearly as much as you think it is. Now, if you want to know more about the American mouth posture, you can follow me, Katherine Arthur, on LinkedIn, and you can read my article on the American mouth posture. Now, practice this technique. I will guarantee that your American English will become more clear and easier to understand. And pronunciation mistake number 10 is trying to totally eliminate your accent. This could be the biggest mistake of all. Many professionals do tell me that they want to sound exactly like a native speaker, and I understand that feeling. You want perfection. But here's something that I really want you to remember. Your accent, that tells part of your personal story. It reflects another language that you mastered, and that's something to be proud of. So instead of asking, how can I sound totally, completely American? Ask yourself, how can I become easier to understand? That is a much healthier goal. And honestly, it's a much more realistic one. The truth is, completely eliminating an accent is extremely difficult, if not impossible. And for most adults, it's not really the point. Our first language, the first language that we learn as children, shapes the way that we hear sounds, shapes the way that we move our mouths, and it affects the way that we speak. And those patterns are very deeply rooted inside our brains. So instead of chasing perfection, focus on being clear and easy to understand. Now, for many ESL learners, once native speakers can follow them comfortably, that's the moment when pronunciation training has done what it needs to do. So you're probably wondering, where should you start? Well, if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't worry. You don't have to fix everything at once. In fact, I recommend focusing on these 5 priorities. Number 1, sentence stress. 2, word stress. 3, American English rhythm. 4, vowel accuracy. And 5, connected speech. Those 5 areas usually create the biggest improvements in intelligibility. Remember, clear communication is not about perfection. It's about making life easier for your listener. And when people understand you without effort, conversation becomes more enjoyable. Meetings become less stressful, phone calls, they become easier, and interviews feel more comfortable. And your confidence naturally will grow. So let's finish with 3 simple habits that can make a huge difference. And these are 3 things that you can start doing today. First of all, record yourself speaking. Most people never hear their own pronunciation objectively. So recording yourself helps you notice patterns that you didn't realize were there. Second of all, imitate native speakers. Choose a short clip from this podcast or from a YouTube video or a TED Talk and listen to one sentence and pause. Repeat that sentence exactly. Don't just copy the words. Copy the rhythm, the stress, and the melody. And then third of all, practice speaking every single day. Even 5 or 10 minutes of practicing American English is enough. Consistency will beat intensity every single time. So if there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode, it's this. Don't spend all your energy chasing tiny pronunciation details that hardly anyone notices. Instead, focus on the patterns that make English sound like English. You know, you don't have to fix everything at once, so just choose one area at a time. Work on rhythm, work on stress, connected speech, or maybe final consonants, or maybe just slowing down before difficult vocabulary. So master one skill at a time. Practice consistently, practice every day, and be patient with yourself. Celebrate progress instead of perfection. You'll be happy to know that small improvements add up surprisingly fast. And every small improvement makes communication just a little easier. And with that, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Fluent and Fearless. If you found today's discussion helpful, consider sharing this episode with a colleague, a friend, or a fellow professional who speaks English as a second language. And if you speak English as a second language and you feel frustrated with American English, remember this. The problem is not that you're bad at English. The problem is that the rules of spoken American English can be a little bit confusing. But I can help you learn them, and you'll feel those feelings of frustration start to disappear. So if you're ready to take your communication skills to the next level, I'd love to help you. If you speak English as a second language and you're concerned about your pronunciation of American English, once again, I am here to help. I want you to be fluent and fearless, and I know you can do it. Remember, working on your speech and pronunciation doesn't mean that your accent is a problem. It means that you value communication. It means that you're investing in yourself. And what really counts is connecting with other people, building relationships, and showing the world who you are as a unique individual. So whether you're looking to succeed in your career or just want to feel more confident in everyday conversations, accent modification can give you the advantage that you're looking for. If you're ready to explore accent modification, I have a free offer for you. Visit my website at pronouncespeech.com. pronouncespeech.com. Find out how to book a free assessment with me, Katherine Arthur, at no cost, no obligation, and my free assessments are a low-key and conversational way to help you learn how you can benefit from accent modification. Again, my website, pronouncespeech.com, pronouncespeech.com. So again, this is Katherine Arthur, and thanks for joining me on this edition of Fluent and Fearless. Be sure to look me up on LinkedIn, and you can find Pronounce Speech and Accent Specialists on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So until next time, keep speaking, keep showing up, and keep reminding yourself that your voice deserves to be heard. This is Katherine Arthur. Thanks again for listening. And I will talk to you next time on Fluent and Fearless.